I thought exhaustion was making me imagine things, until my daughter woke me in the middle of the night and asked a question I will never forget.
I won't tell who I am, what my name is, where I work, and so on. That's not important at all. The only thing that matters is what I went through literally 2 days ago. I will tell only what has a direct relation to this horror. My daughter and I live together. We're not exactly rich, but we have enough for bread. My husband drank. He drank very heavily, and because of that, he actually left this world. And, by the way, quite recently. In fact, the story is about him, if you can even say that. Although wait, not exactly about him. Everything used to be normal. We were the most ordinary, average family, up to a certain time. James started drinking. I don't know the reasons, but it began after the death of his mother, my mother-in-law. Maybe it's somehow connected with what happened to me. I don't know. Anyway, everything in order. As I said earlier, I live with my daughter. Her name is Annabelle. She's 8 years old. One evening I came home from work tired as a dog. Annabelle was sitting, doing her homework, and everything was basically as usual. Throwing my bag onto the shelf in the hallway, I trudged into the room, changed clothes, and wandered into the kitchen to heat up yesterday's soup. I was incredibly hungry. After eating, literally a couple of minutes later, there was a knock at the door. Strange. I wasn't expecting anyone. Though it wasn't late, the clock showed 8 in the evening. Maybe neighbours or someone else? I looked through the peephole and saw only an empty stairwell and a flickering light bulb in the corner that nobody had bothered to replace for years. God, where do I live? Why did I have to be born in this hole? My mood was terrible. Some stupid kids messing around, I thought, and went into the room to watch TV. But I hadn't even managed to pick up the remote when I heard the knock again. I looked through the peephole again. No one. I opened the door and looked out onto the landing. Strange. What kind of crap is this? Or am I already imagining things? No, I definitely heard the knocking. I went back to the room, lay down on the sofa, turned on the TV, and immersed myself in my shows. That was the only thing that distracted me from this grey routine. About 15 minutes later, another knock. Doesn't someone have anything better to do? I said. Annabelle, go see who's knocking. Annabelle came into my room and with a surprised expression said, You know, Mom, no one's knocking there. I thought maybe I should stop working double shifts. I was already imagining things. I hugged my daughter, covered her with a blanket, and we sat together watching TV. About an hour later, sleep started to take over. I put Annabelle to bed in her room, told her a fairy tale, and lay down beside her. My sleep didn't last long. I was awakened by a very loud slam of a door, as if someone had entered or left. James often used to come home from work at night, so at first I didn't attach any importance. 5 seconds later, I jumped out of bed, and Annabelle woke up too. What the hell? James is dead. Then who slammed the door? What kind of deviltry is this? Throwing on a robe, I went into the hallway. The door was open. I clearly remembered locking it. I always lock the door with 2 locks at night. Not only were the locks undone, the door was wide open. That was when fear began to creep up on me, pricking every centimetre of my body like needles. I locked the door again, put Annabelle back to bed, and lay down beside her. My sleep didn't last long. What was that? I'm not a superstitious person. I don't believe in anything like that at all. Neither God, nor the devil, nor any kind of mysticism. But this looked at the very least strange. Toward morning, around 7, sleep finally took me into its arms. It was Saturday. Annabelle didn't need to go to school, and I didn't need to go to work. For some reason, I woke up early. I'd slept about 2 hours. A wild fatigue hung over me, as if I had been unloading freight cars all night. I didn't want to get up at all, though I didn't especially want to sleep. A strange state, but I had to get up. I needed to make breakfast and feed my child. Getting out of bed and throwing on my robe, I went to the kitchen. The first thing that caught my eye was a cup standing in the middle of the kitchen table. You might say, so what? A cup is just a cup. But no, this was my late husband's cup. And here's the thing, I had thrown out all his belongings, absolutely everything, so as not to think about him or remember him at all, to live anew. How did it get here? What is going on? Now I was really scared. Goosebumps covered my whole body. I took a cigarette, sat down at the table, and lit it. All sorts of thoughts crawled into my head, but nothing sensible or normal came to mind. I was pulled out of those stupid thoughts when the cigarette burned down and scorched my finger. I remembered why I had come to the kitchen. I threw the cup into the trash and began making breakfast. The day passed in household chores, cleaning, laundry, cooking, and this incident simply flew out of my head. The fatigue didn't go away, but now I explained it by running around the house, wiping dust, clearing clutter, and so on. Annabelle played outside almost the whole day. She came home just in time for dinner. We ate. I gave her my phone so she could watch something on YouTube, and I lay down on my favourite sofa and dozed off. It was about 8 or 9 in the evening. I slept again, not for long, maybe an hour or an hour and a half. I terribly wanted water, my mouth was dry, and I went to the kitchen. Annabelle was still sitting there, glued to the phone. I poured water into a cup, and after taking a couple of sips, realised with horror that it was the very same cup. What is going on here? This isn't funny anymore. I threw it out this morning. A thought began to creep into my mind that either something was wrong in the apartment, something paranormal, or that I was going crazy. Leaving the cup on the table, I put Annabelle to bed and went to my room. My head was a mess. First the doors, then the cup, some kind of nonsense, and this fatigue for no clear reason. Maybe I was getting sick, but no, I had taken my temperature. Everything was normal. With this jumble in my head, I somehow managed to fall asleep. Surprisingly, I slept well that night, and there were no incidents. They began in the morning. Once again, the entrance door to the apartment was open, and more than that, my late husband's pings began to appear in the apartment. His sneakers stood on the shoe rack, his jacket hung in the closet, the cup was in the kitchen, and so on. Is this a joke? Because it isn't funny at all. In the evening, Annabelle developed a fever. She became pale as a mushroom, didn't eat anything, neither did I for that matter. Something unexplainable was happening in this apartment. My daughter's temperature rose to 39 degrees Celsius. I called an ambulance and we went to the hospital. I spent the night there. In the morning I went home. I needed to cook something for my child to eat because what they give in the hospital can hardly be called food. On the way to our building there was a little church. As I came level with it, the thought occurred to me to go inside. I repeat, I'm a person who never believed in anything like that at all, but considering recent events, I decided to go in. After talking with the priest and telling him the whole situation, what was happening in the apartment, we agreed that he would come the next day and bless the apartment. I left him the address and with a somewhat calmer soul headed home. Entering the apartment, I found nothing suspicious. The fatigue still didn't go away. It lessened, then intensified, but never disappeared. And I noticed that it intensified precisely when I was in the apartment. Plus, another oddity. For some reason, I had a very bad premonition about that night. I don't know why, but it was there. With difficulty, I cooked some food for Annabel, got dressed, and left the building. At the entrance stood my neighbour, Caitlin, a good, kind, elderly lady who lived on the floor below, directly under our apartment. "Bridget, come here. I'll tell you something." "Good afternoon, Caitlin. What is it?" "Bridget, here's the thing. I'm already old, and I have trouble sleeping as it is. Could you please not run around at night? I understand, a child and all that, but the ceiling is thin. Everything can be heard. I can't fall asleep at all." "What do you mean, run around? No one is running at night. People sleep at night. And Annabel is in the hospital." "Then I suppose no one slams doors either," she said, with an expression as if she knew something and didn't want to say it. After those words, I silently turned and left. Damn it, this is all real. I'm not imagining it. She heard it too. Then whose footsteps or running is that at night? That night we were in the hospital, who was running then? With that question in my head, I walked toward the hospital to my daughter. When I went in and saw the doctor, I was stunned. He said that everything was fine with the little one. She was completely healthy, and I could take her home even now. My heart felt lighter. She ran out of the ward and hugged me. About 30 minutes later, we were already heading home. As soon as our building came into view, my head again filled with all sorts of nonsense about evil spirits and so on. But I remembered the neighbour's words and decided to stop by the church again. The priest was already about to go home, but I persuaded him to come to us, not tomorrow, but now, because the bad premonition was intensifying with every metre as we approached the building. You might say, why not move somewhere for a while? But where could we go? My daughter and I have no one in the whole world, nowhere to go. The priest agreed, and the three of us went up the stairwell. When he entered the apartment, his face changed immediately. He very quickly took out all his things, read a prayer, sprinkled holy water, and hurried away. His last words were, "Move out of here. Evil has settled here, and it cannot be simply driven out. You thought your late husband was visiting you. Alas, that is not so. Something else is visiting you. Something terrible and inexplicable, which feeds on your fear and life energy. I have done all I could. I hope this helps somehow." I closed the door behind him, went to the kitchen, lit a cigarette, and held my head in my hands. What was that just now? What evil? Who settled here? Then, thinking it over, I realised it all fit. He said it feeds on fear and life energy. That's where the weakness and fatigue come from. And the fear, the main fear, is the memory of my husband. I was afraid to remember him, and then his things began appearing in the house. Goosebumps ran over my body. My heart began to beat faster. To leave? Where to? We have neither money nor anything else. On the street we would simply freeze or get sick, and it was already below 0. Winter was coming. That night there was nothing left but to spend the night in that apartment. After dinner and putting Annabel to bed, I took a shower, unfolded the sofa, and lay down. My eyes were closing. I fell asleep almost immediately. At about 2 in the morning, something that happened that is still frozen in my memory as the most terrible thing I have experienced in all my 35 years of life. In short, Annabel woke me. She got up to go to the toilet, and do you know what she asked me? This is how she woke me. "Mom, who is sleeping with you?" Sleep vanished instantly, and I felt that someone really was lying beside me. My fear knew no bounds. I literally began to tremble. The mattress beside me was slightly pressed down, as if under someone's weight, and I could feel warmth near my back, the faint sensation of another presence breathing in the dark. I was afraid to turn my head. Slowly, forcing myself to move, I glanced toward the small mirror on the bedside table, hoping to see a reflection of whoever was there. But there was nothing. The bed in the reflection looked empty. Only the crumpled blanket, only the dark room behind me. And yet the feeling of someone lying next to me did not disappear. It was still there, so real that my heart was pounding in my ears. Panic seized me. I quietly got out of bed. The pressure on the mattress slowly eased, as if whoever or whatever had been there shifted or sat up, but I dared not look back. I left the room, got dressed Annabel, and just as quietly we left the apartment. Whether it noticed us or simply wasn't there at all, I don't know. I was shaking. Annabel was crying. We didn't know what to do. We left the building, and then I glanced up at the windows of our apartment. For a moment, I thought I saw a dark shape in the kitchen window, as if someone was standing there and watching us. But the glass reflected the streetlights, and I couldn't tell whether there was really someone behind it or if my exhausted mind was inventing things. That feeling of fear cannot be conveyed in words. In the end, I decided to try asking Caitlin for shelter. After knocking on her door for about 10 minutes, she opened it with a sleepy look and invited us in. I explained everything that had just happened. She's a religious woman, so she believed us and allowed us to stay with her for the time being. I decided to sell the apartment. I don't know what that devilry was. Life in Caitlin's apartment gradually settled down. Everything returned to normal. Annabel went to school, I went to work. Everything was good, until one moment. And then a slam.